Welcome to The Authentic Me. The power of storytelling is what I believe. Every story is unique. Every story may hold the answers you seek. With special guests fortnightly so you can learn, apply their wisdom for your own life's turn. I am your host. My name is Mel Yu. Together, we might discover a new worldview. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Authentic Me, where my purpose is to share authentic stories from all walks of life so that you can grow in personal development and live out your best life. I'm your host, Mel Yu, and as always, a huge thank you for your time and energy. Tim Speirs is the founder of Tim Speirs Coaching. He is a peak performance mindset coach, helping business owners, aspiring entrepreneurs, elite athletes, coaches, and network marketers achieve consistent peak performance by removing all self-doubt, clearing up mental blockages, build the business of their dreams, and get paid in the process. Keyword emphasis on paid. Tim grew up in a small country town west of Melbourne, where he obsessed over anything sport-related, especially Australian football, the AFL, so much so that his fourth grade teacher wanted to keep him down a year and said that if Tim put as much energy into his schoolwork as he did with footy, he might actually get somewhere. Tim doubled down on his football skills and made it onto a state level team at the age of 16. While Tim's football career was starting to flourish, his school and academic interests were basically non-existent. Tim made a grave mistake in school, which resulted in him being cut from the team's football list and what seemed to him at the time like his future was being ripped away from him. It's here he started to spiral. Tim started making bad decisions and experimenting with heavy drugs and alcohol. While reckless fun was being had, his relationships were being destroyed and so was his identity. You can only dance with the devil for so long, and when he lost a close family friend to an overdose, it was the thing that shook Tim back to reality. Tim made a decision that he would never settle and get his life back on track. Tim is a full believer that everything happens for a reason and the universe gives you exactly what you need at exactly the right time for you to serve your purpose, if you choose to. Tim now helps a growing list of clients grow their business to 10K per month organically. One of his most recent success stories is a client banking 28K in 6 weeks. So I'm keen as for this epic conversation and to unpack his peak performance mindset today. So let's do this. Please welcome Mr. Tim Speirs.
Thanks so much, Mel. It's a beautiful intro. Thank you.
Pleasure. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Good. It's going to be epic. I'm keen. So let's go straight into it. I kind of want to ask, first question is, what compelled you to become this peak performance coach? Who are your clients? How do you even help them?
Yeah, it's a great question. And again, thanks for having me. I feel like this is going to be a great chat. So really, it all started for me, like as a part of that story, when I was at rock bottom, where I was blessed to have that thing happen to me when, you know, a family friend did lose his life, unfortunately. I look back on that and I'm like, if that didn't happen, I don't know where I'd be. But that sort of led me back on the path of like personal development, taking control of your identity, taking control of your life. Yeah. And while I was playing football, a big part of the story is that I had no freaking idea what I wanted to do. I was lost. I knew I was good at football. I was about 23 at the time, and I felt like AFL wasn't really like something that I was really aspiring to. It was more, I was on a VFL list at this time, and it was actually, and I feel like this is the importance of moments in your life. And like, as you said, it's like a choice, whether you go one way or go the other way. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And the strength and conditioning coach at the football club I was at actually asked me, said, hey, like, you seem like you're a natural leader. You love, like, a good communicator. You should become a personal trainer. And at the time I was playing football like full time. So I was playing VFL. I was lucky enough to be paid well enough just to do that full time. So really I had so much time on my hands. I was training like 3 times a week, and games on Saturday. But outside of that, I was doing, let's be honest, not much.
Yeah.
All right. So I actually studied to become a PT. And a big part of that was as well, like it was really like health and fitness was the thing that saved my life to a degree. I got back in the gym, like when the significant event happened, got back in the gym, started taking care of myself at that level. And that sort of led me down the path of like, okay, well, if I take care of my health, maybe I'll take care of my mental health. Yeah. Take care of my mental health, how more can I grow? So it was from that place where I become a PT, and I wanted to sort of give that gift back to someone else. If someone else was going through a shit time, I'm like, if I could help one person, like just get their life back on track through health, that would be my job done. But to answer your question, I was fascinated as a PT. I was a PT down here in Melbourne, and I was fascinated, Mel, how I could give one person the same meal plan and the same workout plan, specific to their body type, their goals, et cetera, et cetera. One person would just absolutely crush it, and the other person would completely fail. And I was fascinated by that distinction of like what makes someone win and what makes someone go the opposite way, sometimes even worse. So that really led me to study, identity, NLP, therapy, hypnosis, all the good stuff that I know you're into as well. So that's really what led me to where I am today as a peak performance mindset coach. Because I'm like, I found like when I was doing PT, I wanted to be more than a guy who could teach someone how to count macros and lift weights. Well, that's all important, and I don't talk down on anyone who does that because it's just like such an important and powerful gift to share with someone. But my big passion was like one thing that changed the game for me in my business was when I cleared up a lot of the stuff that was actually holding me back, which was around identity and my own fear of success and all that sort of stuff. So that's the gift that I love giving back business owners now who come to me struggling, and they think that it's just, I need to market more and sell more, but really it's like the inner stuff that's really holding them back. That's the sort of stuff that I clear up with clients now. So it's been a blessing.
That's freaking awesome. So did your clients start off in the fitness industry and then move to business owners, or kind of it all just organically happened and everyone just started reaching out to you once you launched your coaching business?
That's a good question. So really I was working with, when I was a PT, so this is sort of how the story unfolded. So I was a PT, and what I sort of saw in the industry was like, I'm spending a lot of fucking time doing so many hours, spending so much energy and not getting like heaps and heaps of return in terms of how much work I was putting in. So that made me realize, I'm like, can I do this long term? Probably not. So I actually invested in a company to take my business online. Invested a lot of money at the time. Well, I thought that was like, it was a lot of money to me at the time. Invested that and then took the business online. The first couple of years, to be honest, were a bit of a struggle. Trying to find my groove. Again, like being held back by all this inner stuff that I didn't even know that was holding me back. It's like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So then that sort of led me to the online business. I learned so much investing in this company. I invested 20K into a company who taught me how to market and how to sell, but I was just in the same place 2 years later. So then that's when I sort of implemented my own teachings in clearing up a whole bunch of stuff, and the business moved forward. So now I work with a lot of online PTs, a lot of just online entrepreneurs who have that vision to go online. So that's really led me to here now. It's like I've grown the business to a successful place. So now I think it's easy to make 10K online. If you're good at what you do, you're passionate about what you do, and you have the right skill set, and you clear up some of the stuff that's actually holding you back. I feel like 10K should be like the baseline, to be honest. 100%. I feel like especially right now in the world we're living in, Mel, like you'll agree that there's no better time to be online. I know you're doing virtual events and stuff like that. Like it's just such a powerful thing to be able to, give back. But not only that, is like give back to people all over the world. And right now people need it more than ever. Let's be honest.
100%. I agree so much. And as you were saying that, I'm like, that would have benefited tenfold without obviously knowing that the pandemic was coming and on its way. But e-commerce has come forward 3 to 5 years. Everything is now online. Everyone that didn't, used to be comfortable with the internet is now, we're all on the internet. It's been insane. Everything has to have pivoted to this now technology world. And exactly what you said with your clients, like the moment that you go online, you are now no longer restricted to your local neighborhood. And you can be anywhere in the world, and it saves so much time as well. You pop open your laptop, you're saving travel time, you're saving rent on commercial properties. There's so much benefit now to going online.
Totally agree. It's funny you bring that up, because it's like one of my clients he did face-to-face PT around here in Melbourne. He did face-to-face PT, and he took an element of his business online with me, and I taught him a skill set. And he actually said, this is the guy who did the 28K in 6 weeks. He actually said to me on a phone call like 2 weeks ago, he's like, dude, I feel bad. I'm like, whoa, what's going on? He's like, I feel like I'm working less and I'm making more money. And I'm like, it's how it should be, dude. I'm like, you can leverage time and make more impact and income, because like you said, it's like, I'm interested actually to see, this is an interesting conversation where what happens to face-to-face PTs? What happens to different businesses who have found out, holy shit, like I can do this while I'm online, and it might be easier for a stay-at-home mum to hire an online PT because they don't have to go an hour both way to the gym and spend an hour there. They can just smash out the workout in 25 minutes from their garage.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? I'm like, this is where I feel like one person could go one way. This online PT he's come one way, and he's like, instead of waiting around and being reactive and be like, oh, I'll wait until the pandemic's over and then we'll see if business gets back. It's like, I feel like if you can build something while there's adversity, you can just like move yourself away from like mediocrity or just like the baseline. 100%. But it's about, I think, like I love your opinion. I feel like it's just like having the courage to do that. Because it can be a scary thing. You don't know, like online markets, selling, all that sort of stuff. It can be a scary thing, but I think fortune favors the brave.
But it's a scary thing because like if it's your first time and you haven't done it before. But then after that, once you master that skill, then it's yours. And then there's just, I've been saying with this pandemic, I'm like, opportunity is everywhere. Like when people are bitter and looking, I'm like, this is just like the GFC in 2008. There are going to be some massive companies that are going to come out of this. And yes, a lot of businesses will die, but that's because they didn't innovate. They were hoping to go back to normal. But what we're super excited about is what is the new normal? Because there isn't a life before pre-pandemic coming back now. So
love it. So freaking true. So freaking true. I love that. It's very, very true.
Yeah. So, Tim, what is then the most common reason, or what is the most common thing that you find your clients coming to you stuck with? Like, why is it that people fail? What do you think is the most common reason why people do fail in business?
It's a very powerful question. I mean, the most common one, this is what I feel, because I work with, as I said, a lot of coaches who have like a specific skill set that they could take online. I work with right now as well, a lot of network marketers. A lot of people in network marketing, multi-level marketing, because people are looking to build a side income right now. That's why I'm like, some of the network marketers I've been working with have been growing their business exponentially, because it's like, this is the time now where, as you said, there's so much opportunity out there. But I feel like the thing that I see pop up most with those two things, and this is what I struggled with a lot early on, is the fear of judgment. The fear of judgment of like, what is someone going to think if I start putting myself out there online? Because this is the thing, like all of my clients, we do it all organically. This is no paid ads, no like anything like that. This is just sharing a story. This is like part of what I help them put together is like, what's your story? Like what has made you who you are? It's like you, Mel, you've got a phenomenal story, and it's what's made you so freaking good at what you do. Yeah. Same as me. It's like, I'm very good at what I do because I've been through the trenches taking shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like right now there's this thing around people don't want to be too vulnerable online. They want to be seen as this perfect thing. If they're promoting products, it's like, oh, I have to show up as like this perfect person, and they try and push the products. But really, if you can just talk authentically about who you are and how it's helped you, then people are going to come to you rather than you have to push to people. That's why I'm like, it's never been so easy to get clients, because if you can show up as the person who they can almost see themselves become, they're like, oh my God, like it's like almost like that thing. It's like, oh, I want what she's got. You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like the fear of judgment around what people will think is one of the main things. Yeah. And, unfortunately, we're living through a time where I feel like a lot of people resent people when they're successful. It's like, and this is the power of environment. I know we had a chat about it on our first phone call before this, was like, environment's such an important thing, and who you let really penetrate, what you're doing and how you're showing up. So I feel like the fear of judgment is one of the main things that I see pop up. Definitely.
100%. I think I totally agree with that. And you know, I was smiling a lot because you were like, you just got to be authentic. I'm like, this podcast. But but it is so
Perfect.
true. As in, if you can just be you, like in a world right now that is so fake, everyone, especially Instagram, TikTok, it's all about, you know, the living your best life and showing this highlight reel. And you know what people really actually resonate with the most is your pain, your vulnerability, and also like your resilience and your courage to continue on. So it's not, because it's unrealistic to portray everything as Bali Bible, holidays, yachts, cars, la la la. It's just so unrealistic. And if you actually genuinely want to provide value, then just show up as you.
Totally. I agree. And I feel like when people are inauthentic and they try and be someone they're not, they'll attract people completely different to who they usually attract than if they're just authentic. The reason why, like, I work with my ideal clients, all my ideal clients, like, come to me like effortlessly, is because I show up a certain way, and they've probably gone through something similar to what I was. That, you know, maybe they had a business, they were struggling for a little while, and they have like this inner stuff. They know they could do great things, but they just can't quite put their finger on what it is. I've been through that, so I can meet them from where they're at and say, hey, I was there one day, do this. Come with me on this journey and you'll have this business doing 10K a month. Yeah. Now, I attract those clients because I talk about the things that have got me here. Whereas if I talk about, I'm just running this successful business, no, nothing's ever happened to me, I'm this perfect guy, I never used to take drugs and alcohol. No. Yeah. Not me. Yeah. If I'm showing up like that, I would be attracting people completely different to what I am right now. So I feel like the day that you do own your story, it becomes your biggest weapon. But when you hide it, it actually is your biggest vulnerability. If I'm out here hiding what I've been through because I'm scared about what people will think, that is my biggest vulnerability. Because if someone finds that out, it's like, hey, he's not who he says he is. But if I just call a spade, I'm like, hey, I used to be this guy. I've been through all this shit. Now I'm here. I can teach you to do the same thing. That's my biggest strength.
Yeah. Man, I resonate with that so much. And I'm like, this is so good. I'm getting goosebumps because I like know that people are going to love listening to this as well. It's so true. So then, well, you're a peak performance coach. What would you say has been your biggest win in life or your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement. That's a really powerful question. I'll pick a couple of things. I feel like this business that I've been able to grow has been a big part of it. I'm super, super proud of where it's at right now. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's been one big achievement. But I think in the past, one really significant thing that really stands out was my ability to take it from when I was, at rock bottom and had that thing happen to me where, family friend lost his life, completely tragic, bless his soul. Yeah. Had that happen, and I made a decision that one day I'm like, I'm going to live the rest of my life getting after things that I love. And then from that decision, like, there's a lot that happened in between that, like, relationships, that got cut off, friends that got cut off. And I eventually made it back onto like a semi-professional list. And I still remember to this day, like, the first time that I played, it took me I got on the list, and then it took me 6 weeks to get into the team. And I actually remember my first game. Like, I remember every single detail. It was a Friday night in Footscray. We were playing against Footscray, obviously, Western Bulldogs. And I remember running out. I actually had like a flashback where I'm just like, I thought of like the last few years of all this shit that had happened to me. And I'm like, this is what can happen when you change your mind on something. I'm like, this is what can happen when something happens to you and you choose to make it like the thing that builds you. Like, it was that moment running out on the ground where I was like, almost cried, where I'm like, fuck, like, anything's possible. Yeah. I think that's like my explanation of peak performance. Like, having something happen to you that's tremendously adverse, but then using it as your biggest strength and being like the thing that really drives you. So I feel like that's like a standout thing that it's like a constant reminder to me of like, fuck, if you put your mind to something, you can do anything. It's like, and I'm like, my big thing is it's like dream big, because I'm like, it would have been easy for me just to play small and say, like, I might just like get my life back on track and maybe play football at just like my normal level. And I'm like, who's to choose? Why can't I get to the semi-professional thing? So that happened, and how it's really applicable now is like with the business owners who come on, like, most of like the guy who did 28K, he wanted to do 10K months. And I seen something in him where I'm like, you could do so much more.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like one of my favorite sayings is that you'll never exceed your wildest expectation. That's why like my goals, my ambitions that I set for my business owners, like I want to push them hard. I want to, because I'm like, I'd rather aim high as fuck and miss than aim low and hit it. So with him, when he come on, he's like, oh, I want to do 10K months. I'm like, how do you feel about that? Do you feel like you'd be able to do it? And he's like, yeah, I feel like I could. And I'm like, okay, let's do 20. Yeah. And the first month, he does $20,800. So I look at that and I'm like, what is that? Is it because he had all these different strategies? It's like, no, all it is because he aimed high and he forced himself to level up. Like that to me is like peak performance. So I feel like the big standout things to answer your question is that distinction of the thing that happened to me made it back onto a semi-professional list. That was one thing that really stands out to me as my like a big achievement. But now my big achievements that get me like heaps and heaps of fulfillment is this seeing clients crush it. It's like,
yeah,
I think it also, especially now, it's like, because we're in lockdown, obviously, I get so much fulfillment and like almost distracts me when clients are just crushing it. When I say I'm crushing it, it just like, it makes me feel so good. So those would be the things.
Yeah, and 100%. It's like when they win, when your clients win, you win. You know, it's a win-win. It's a win-win situation. So if you can provide value in that, it's like, and then they go and do it and execute. That's also on them as well. Like they did all the work, but it is that really humbling feeling to go, a big fuck yeah for that.
I love that. I love that. Even it just reminds me, like, such a point you bring up of, I feel like for the people who are coaching out there, if there's network marketers out there, like there's one thing that I feel like there's a shift that you can make. And I'm sure, like, I love your opinion on this, Mel, but I feel like the more that you can focus on how can I give more, and it's a cliche saying of like, how can I give more rather than what can I get? And I feel like right now, the industry, I had someone tell me the other day, like, oh, like the coaching industry or the online PT industry saturated. And I'm like, I agree if you are doing the same thing as everyone else.
Correct.
But if you're focusing on how can I give to my clients at a just ridiculous level, how can I over deliver for them? That's when you put yourself into like a rare territory where if you do that, you'll never have to worry about where to get clients from again.
Yeah.
This is my big thing. This is why that guy's been able to grow so much. This is why all my other clients are crushing it, because our focus is like the organic game is, instead of focusing on, hey, how can I get more clients? The focus or the question you should ask is, hey, how can I give more to the clients that I've already got? Because they're the golden goose who's going to bring me more clients.
100%. Yeah. And like as we know, like the best type of marketing is a personal referral, right? Like no ads, someone just going, I know a guy or I know a girl that's doing this. And that's the best type of testimonial. It's organic, it's genuine, and it's a positive feedback. Kind of it answers my next question that I wanted to ask, which was, what do you think in your brand can't be replicated, which makes you have your unique selling proposition in sales terms? And how can other people find that unique selling proposition or that unique value point? Because a lot of people, I think, try and be someone else, like, because it's like Tim's Tim. Like you can aspire to be Tim, but Tim's going to have his own brand and it can't be replicated. You got to figure out what you do. When people, it's like, oh, you know, it's like, there's only one Mel Yu. So you got to figure out what your unique selling point is. What do you think it is in your brand?
What do I think it is that like stands out that helps you grow mine?
Yeah. Well, for you, what can't be replicated with you?
Okay, what can't I feel like it's like goes back to the conversation that we had before, which is like the story. I'm like, I'm sure there's people who have been through similar stuff to me. I'm not crying for me. There's been people who have been through way more like adverse things than I have, I'm sure. But I feel like the story is the only thing that can't be replicated. It's the same. It's like what I tell my clients is like, even when I take them through a process on how to sell effectively, like you said before, it's like I give them the tools, but I'm like, put your own spin on it.
Yeah.
Here's the tool. Here's what works. Now you go do you with it. You go put your own little spin on it. you go put your own energy behind it.
Yes.
And I feel like it's such a powerful thing of like having good role models and people who you look up to. I know we have this in common where we both love Gary Vee. Gary Vee, actually, a funny story is that we would not be here if it wasn't for Gary Vee, or I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Gary Vee. I actually read a book. I've got 2 of his books behind me here.
Yeah, I've got all of them too.
Yeah, the people on the podcast, like it's one of them's called Jab Jab Right Hook, and the other one's called Ask Gary Vee. Now, I remember reading a book from Gary Vee, which was called Crush It, which was like the first one that he brought out about like starting a personal brand and stuff like that. And it was all just about authentically owning you and finding what works for you. What works for me is like doing events. I love talking. I love communicating. Now, it never used to be like that for me. This is a part of the things that I help like work my clients through. It was like I used to almost throw up going to parties and stuff like that because I was so like socially awkward and had bad social anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like find what works for you. If it's, doing live videos online, if it's talking to a certain events, if it's doing these sort of things, I think it's about having the courage to try all these different things, whether it's podcasts, all this different stuff, and then thinking, okay, well, that's working. I'm going to go hard on it.
Yeah.
All right. And I feel like it's about finding your own groove and then really having the courage to put your own little spin on it.
100%. No, and that's, you hit the nail on the head with that. I think people need to realize, everyone listening, is your brand can't be replicated because no one's lived your story. No one's got your truth of what you perceive the world as. So you own it. Stop trying to look everywhere else because your story, how you got here, is so significant and unique.
I love that. I love that.
You mentioned before, you were like, dream big, tell everyone to dream big. And I had like a little quote happened in my head where I was like, I say dream big, but start small. Because I deal with a lot of startups, and I'd love your opinion on this. A lot of startups, what type of advice can you give really early on entrepreneurs like millennials starting a business, and what can they do in the start of their business so that they don't waste so much time, money, energy, resources? Because they always dream big and they go big. And I'm always like, you don't have a brand yet and you don't exist. You don't have clients. So what's your thoughts on that?
That's a great point to bring up. It is one thing to dream big, and it's another thing to execute, because I'm all about, I don't want my clients to dream big. I want them to take action. So I feel like it's such an important thing. One thing that really stands out to me is like, I even look at where I am now, and I'm blessed to be doing what I love. And I'm blessed to be able to say that, but I'm like, there was a day when I had no freaking idea how I would get here. I'm like, sometimes I look and I'm like, how the fuck did I get here? Like, I continually pinch myself and I'm like, what has happened? Now, I feel like this is a big part of like having a vision and having a dream, is that like focus on what you can control. All right. And then the rest, and this, I don't want to do this like as a reckless recommendation, but it's like, just leave the rest up to the universe. I always focus on what you can control and execute and take action. But sometimes it's like, be okay with not knowing how. Just trust, just like step into it. If you're this is the big thing. I'm like, I've spoken to people who wanted to do, start their business or their coaching like 12 months ago. And 12 months later, I actually had a conversation with a lady about a month ago who she wanted to start it 12 months ago. And she said, I'll do it when the time's right. And God behold, like 12 months later, it was the same story. And I feel like this is the thing. It's like, if you wait until all the ducks are lined up, or waiting for a time where it's like, I'll just wait until like this perfect time. It's like, that's a fairy tale land. You've got to create that time. So I feel like to answer the question at a deep level, like how can you save yourself the time, resources, money? I look back on my journey and I'm like, I invested somewhere between like 40 to 60 grand, like the first year of my coaching, into coaches and mentors. Because I'm like, well, if that's going to cost me 65 grand, it might save me 2 years of my business, and it might save me in the end, like who knows how much money it might save me. So I think like, and to this day, like I'm still investing so much money in courses, coaches, especially now in COVID. Like I've had a business coach for the last 2 years, the same one. Because I'm like, actually, this is probably good advice for anyone who's at that stage where they're like, they're looking to start something, whatever it is. All right. Whether it's events, anything, it's like find someone who's already doing it well.
Yes.
Find someone who's already doing it well and seek them and say, hey, I'm interested in starting this, blah, blah, blah. It's actually, I did a podcast with this guy the other day and he asked me, he's like, how can I take my podcast to the next level? And I said, here's what I'd do. Who do you know right now who's crushing it in the podcast world? Oh yeah, I have this friend actually. Reach out to him and tell him that you would love him to give you some advice on where he's at and you give him some value in return, whether that be value of money or value of time or value of service, whatever it is. So I'm like, this is why clients come to me. If they want to make 10K months, it's like, go to someone who's doing it. Go to someone who's done it. And it's like, whatever you want to create, find that person who's already walked the path because they'll be able to tell you, oh, dude, I probably wouldn't do that. I made that mistake. Or oh, I'd probably do this instead. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's an important thing as well. Finding mentors, whether they be paid mentors or just find people online even. You get so much stuff online for free now. I'm not saying you even have to go out there and pay anyone. We're living through a time, Al, I'm sure you agree, where we're going through a time where you could go on an epic resource, which is called Google.
Yeah.
And you could look at how to start a podcast, how to start a network marketing business,
Anything.
how to record a record, how to start singing, all this different stuff. And you could have it at the click of your fingers.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we're living through the most opportunity-rich time on the planet. It's just about getting out of your head and overthinking and be like, fuck, like, do I start here? Do I start here? It's like, just do a little bit of research, find someone who's done it before, and then start taking action.
100%. It's so true because otherwise you end up in this analysis paralysis of just doing research, and never actually making a start. Like you said, 12 months later, you still haven't said the things that done the things that you said you were going to do. And another thing that Tony Robbins always says, success leaves clues. So it's like, stop trying to reinvent the wheel. Success leaves clues. So if someone is already where you want to be, reach out. Like, what's the worst thing? They say no. Okay. Yep. Reach out to the next person. Like, definitely, I think 100%, you just got to start at some point and figure it out along the way. I don't know every single person I interview, every single business person, successful man or woman, sorry. And I don't know any of them that haven't made mistakes or failed.
Totally.
It's not possible.
Totally. And I feel like it's such a great share. I feel like that's a big part of it as well. It's like, so I've made mistakes. I've still invested in coaches, but made mistakes. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, those mistakes have really built me into who I am today. It's the same as the story of like what you've been through. It's like, I've learned so much from the mistakes. It's not that they were failures. It was just like, well, that was a good learning. All right. So I feel like, bang on the head there. Perfect.
No, I love it. I love it. So good. A lot of entrepreneurs are solopreneurs. And, we work for ourselves or like we haven't built a team. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges for working alone? Or do you see it as advantages?
I think there's pros and cons, Mel. I think it's a powerful question. It's like me. I'm completely solo. I do all my own marketing. I love putting stuff on Canva. Like, I'm very artistic in that sense. I've got like a feminine side where I'll sit there and like put little posts together and stuff like that. So I feel like if you aren't good at something, you've got to figure that out quickly. Yeah. If you're shocking at putting together posters to promote your business, you've got to find someone who's
delegate. Yeah.
Totally. If I'm an epic coach, but I can't market, it's like either I've got to learn very quickly or I pay someone who knows. Mm-hmm. But I feel like this is where a lot of solopreneurs fall into the trap of, I'm just going to outsource everything, and they lose control.
That's true.
If your expenses are high, you're paying marketers, you're paying salespeople, you've got a big team, and you don't know how to do any of that, you've really put all control onto them. All right. So this is where I feel like comes down to what we said about Gary Vee before. It's like, start executing, find out, hey, I'm not real good at marketing. I better either one, fucking level up quickly or find someone who's good.
Yeah.
And I feel like the biggest challenge is as solopreneurs is we do try and do everything.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like my way is the best way. Like, I'm the perfectionist. It's like, I want to do it because I know it's done right.
But that's a control thing.
It's a control thing.
Yeah.
It's a control thing. Totally, it's a control thing. And that's one thing that holds people back as well. It's like, I don't want to give up control because if they're a perfectionist, it's like, I need to know it's done the way I want it to be done. And I feel like just letting go of a bit of that and just taking, like, just giving the ego a bit of a fucking rest for a while and saying, hey, this person's good at what they do. Let's just take it easy and let them do their thing. I feel like those are the challenges of solopreneurs, where it's like, if you're not good at something, either learn very quickly or invest in someone who's very good at it. And the biggest challenge is sort of letting up a bit of that control.
100%. I really resonate with that. It's again, I'm full of quotes today, but there's the, you know, jack of all trades, master of none. Figure out what your strength is, and because that was what I was doing. I 100% recognize that it's like, taste everything, go out and taste it all, do the marketing, do the design, do the sales, do the branding, do all of that. But then once you kind of figure out what your strengths and weaknesses are, let go of some of that and give it to someone else. So I had to, for the first time, you know, with events and marketing, I did all my social media ads. I learned enough in terms of like understanding the numbers and the like data. But then I was like, this isn't my passion. I hate doing it. Two, like, I just don't have the time for it. So then when I did delegate though, but when they gave me back the monthly reports, I still knew what was happening. I wasn't completely clueless because I had gone out and tasted it.
Totally. Such an important distinction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Such an distinction. It's like if you have a sales team and they're going shocking and you don't know how to sell, you can't really help them. And they have control. It's like, oh, just the market's not real good, or no one's really buying right now. If you have sales skills and you've done it before, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to sit down and listen to how it goes. So then it's like, you know, if it's good or bad. Same as the market. If you have some idea about marketing and the market is like, oh, no, it's just not working. It's like, you haven't given up all control to them, because it's like, if you have some idea and you've tasted it before, as you said, it's like, it gives you back that certainty of like, well, I know sort of even briefly what it should look like or how it should go.
Exactly. And there is, especially the marketing sort of industry, there's so much fluff. Everyone's a social media agency. Everyone's a marketer. And so if you don't know what those reports look like, you could be leaving a lot of money on the table.
So true. That is good. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. But that's another topic for another day about digital marketing. Yeah. So do you have any tools or books on something that you recommend to people in business that has really helped you along the way? And it's just like the audience that's listening right now, they can kind of quickly go and access what's worked for you.
What springs to mind is, like, for what I'm in the coaching industry, like, I feel like it comes down to, this is how I'll answer that. If you do run a business, or you've got like a specific niche or a person or a target market who you serve, you need to know them back to front. So I feel like for me to give advice on that, I would say, like, find out who you really serve, and then find out what are the tools that I need to know to really help that person. Because for me, where I'm at, it's like things around like goal setting, accountability, discipline, identity. Like some of the courses that I do a lot of courses on memory, on identity, on like limiting belief clearings and stuff like that. So is that going to be super applicable to the audience? Well, it might be if they do coaching. But the reason why I study that, and the reason why I've gone out and sourced that, is because I'm like, that's what's going to help me help my clients.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's up to the person to have the courage and the discipline to sit down and say, okay, well, what tools do I need? Do I need to be better at productivity?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll Google productivity course, do it. So it's just about like finding what you're lacking, or finding where you really want your strengths to be, and then executing on that. But I feel like, to answer that question, like, one thing that I do is I just love studying successful people.
Yeah.
It goes back to what you said before. Success leaves clues.
Yeah.
Like, I look at people and I'm like, I look at like patterns. I love studying people. Like, I love Conor McGregor. Like, there was a lot of ego there early on, but I just love the brand that he's built and the audacity that he has. I love Kevin Hart. I love his work ethic and stuff like that. So I find them really good tools of looking up on YouTube, Kevin Hart, Conor McGregor, and hearing their stories. Gary Vee, look up him. He gives all his stuff away for free.
Yeah.
I studied that, and I feel like that's like some untapped knowledge that's just out there for free that people could go and find and could really help them either grow their business or their personal brand.
100%. And I think what you've just said there really kind of goes back to, it comes down to self-awareness. Like you really got to know who you are the light bulb has to switch on. You have to have some higher level of consciousness to probably even be listening to this podcast. So I'm making an assumption that everyone listening right now knows of these people that we're talking about. But 100%, one of my biggest ones, as we've touched on throughout this, is Gary Vee. And I think his content, whether you like him or not, or he swears too much, we both fucking swear too much, is that it's life skills and lessons. He talks, if you really dive deep, he is a businessman, don't get me wrong, but he talks about kindness and gratitude and empathy. And these are some skills that it's only going to serve you better.
Yeah. Practical. Fucking practical. This is what I mean. I'm like, a lot of the business owners who come on with me is like, they're looking for like, hey, what could I do? What's the marketing? How can I sell better? How can I put myself out there? And sometimes it's just like, well, let's just back it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, are you putting yourself out there from an authentic place, from a self-aware place? Are you being vulnerable? Are you appreciating the clients who you've got? Because before you do that, it's like, it doesn't matter what fucking marketing and selling you do. I could teach my dog how to market and how to sell. It's easy. But what's not easy is the stuff that you've just spoken about, which is, self-awareness, gratitude, empathy, kindness, the practicality of what a real business and brand is built on.
Yeah, 100%. It's the same as the bigger global brands, right? You look at McDonald's. McDonald's doesn't sell burgers. McDonald's sells happiness and family. Like, that's what their ethos has always been. You look at Apple, Steve Jobs did not create computers. He did so much more than that. He was the innovation of, leaders, and inspired so many people on a movement. And now when you wear a Mac or an Apple Watch or whatever with pride, not because of the actual product, it's the feeling and the story and the brand behind it.
I love that.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it's good. Good stuff. What's your best tip for someone struggling to, like what we said, make that first step, take that first initial step? I know I have a lot of listeners that don't have businesses, but they have a business idea, and it's just like, I know it sounds simple to go, just start, but like, what is a real practical tip that we can kind of give these people that just, they can't? There's something, obviously a limiting belief or something that's making them not be able to start.
Yeah. It's a great question. And I feel like it is like, it's not enough to just say, hey, just go and do it. Cause it's like, it's not the right way, is it? It's like, if the way I look at it is like, if someone's not ready, this is how I explain it to my clients. I'm like, if someone's not ready, let's just say there's like a nail in the wall and I swing and say, hey, go do it. It's just going to bend the nail. And if I say, hey, go do it again, it's just going to smack the nail, like the bent nail. It's going to be frustrating for both, and it's just going to be a massive mess. So I'm the same way. It's like, I feel like if you've got like some idea or some vision, I feel like you got to be patient with it. This is the thing. I'm all about like, I'm impatiently patient. When clients come to me, I'm like, I'm going hard and we're pushing hard, but I'm also playing like the longest long game where it's like, be patient. If it takes you 2 years, it takes you 2 years. But I feel like, assuming that some of them might have like a full-time job and they're trying to build something on the side, I feel like just creating a clear vision and being like, well, what would I want to do? If I could do one thing every single day, what would it be? And you start to make momentum. Maybe it's not real clear at the start, but you start getting clear on what would my business look like? How much money do I want to make? Do I want to travel and work? And just getting some form of clarity is going to really open up some opportunity. And it's going to make the action seem a little bit more clear as to what you need to do. But even for some of the clients who come on with me, I set them up with the plan of how can we make this your full-time thing? Yeah. And maybe it is, do you need a certain amount of money saved before you can launch the business to give you some peace of mind to be like, well, if it doesn't completely take off as quick as I thought it would, I've got backing. All right. So I feel like creating that game plan of being like, look, if I've got some vision, when am I going to execute on it? Put a deadline on it. Put a date on it. Like, okay, well, maybe late this year, I'm going to freaking do it.
Mm.
All right. And if the deadline makes you feel completely uncomfortable, well, move the deadline forward.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's too much pressure around like, oh, you need to be doing this or you should be doing this. It's like, there's so many, like this is the metaphor I used to explain. It's like, there's so many ways to get to 100. You get there 50 plus 50, you get 20 plus 80, you could do 10 plus 90. It's like, it's going to be different for everyone. And I think just being patient with it, but I think it goes back to what we spoke about before, which is environment as well. A big reason, like I see growth within my business is because the people who I surround myself with are growing businesses. It's impossible for me not to hold standard and keep moving forward when everyone around me is doing that same thing.
100%.
So naturally, if you surround yourself with people who are running a business, then all of a sudden it's just going to be like, they're going to be almost like peer pressuring you to be like, hey, when are you starting? What's going on?
In a positive way as well. Yeah, it's in an accountable way.
In a positive, accountable way, definitely. Yeah. So I feel like environment, and like it goes the other way as well. If you surround yourself with people who have a vision, but they haven't started a business because they're scared and they don't really want to do it, it's probably why you're not taking action. And that's not a bad thing either. They're not doing that on purpose. It's just that's just how it works. But if you can start surrounding yourself with people who are doing that thing, naturally it's going to be like, oh, wait, well, this is possible. Maybe I could start taking action. So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, 100%, of course. And you're so right. It's like the movers and shakers of the world will always end up kind of collaborating or doing something. So it's like, you know, you reaching out to me, we don't know each other. We've never met face to face, but an initial quick phone call, you can sense energy, you can vibrate towards it, that frequency. And it's like, okay, let's create something together. Let's have a conversation. And this has already been absolute fire. Like, I don't know if everyone else can hear the energy, but I'm like pumped. I'm so hyped, which I knew that this was going to happen. But yeah, you need to find the people that are going to elevate you, leverage you, hold you accountable. And another quote, obviously, is you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So if you hang around with like tire kickers, what's going to motivate you to do better? Nothing much.
Totally. Yeah. I agree. And it comes down to what we said before, Mel. It's such a powerful point you bring up again, which is like, if you have an environment of people who, let's say like my business, for instance, where business owners, they come to me and they're like $10,000 a month is a big thing for them, where they're like, oh, like, I don't know if that's completely like way outside of what I thought possible.
This turnover? Are you talking turnover or gross profit revenue? 10K in the pocket.
He's banked. Yeah.
I need to get coaching from you.
a lot of, this is the thing. I feel like there's a lot of stigma, like the coaching industry right now, like a lot of people do talk about like sales value. I mean, sales value for the guy who banked 28K, that was $39,000. So that's contracted over the next 3 months, which is his coaching agreement. So this is like banked in your account, $10,000. I'm like, I don't really want to talk about anything else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to see, I want to see like contracted money's okay because it's coming in, but I'm like, I don't really care about what's coming into your account.
What's
all
up,
right? So
what's left?
Totally. What's there? Because that's all really at the end of the day. If someone's, this is the thing, I know people who do the things of like, oh, my client made $50,000 in, 3 weeks, but it's like, no, really, they banked like 2K in deposits.
Exactly.
So they haven't got a $50,000 business. They've got a $2,000 business.
Yeah, exactly. And like
when people, you go.
Oh, I was just like, I've seen sales coaches being like, $10 million in sales. I'm like, what does that actually mean though? Like,
it's like, so when my client comes to me, he's like, oh, dude, like I did like 15K this week. And I'm like, yeah. What did you bank? He's like, oh, no. Like I did like 15 grand. I'm like, yeah, what did you, like, how much money went into your account? He's like, oh, it was like 4 grand. And I'm like, well, you didn't do 15K, you did 4.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm like, yeah, I feel like to go back to what I was sharing with that, I'm like, if you see someone doing, I know coaches doing 100K banked per month. I look at that and I'm like, well, if that's possible, they're human, they're flesh and bone. Why can't someone else do that? And it's like, if you believe, like what I'm doing now, I couldn't even comprehend, 12 months ago.
Yeah.
What my clients are doing, they couldn't comprehend 6 months ago. And I feel like all it is like having someone from the outside look in and say, hey, this is possible. Dream big. All
Yeah.
right. So I feel like that's also the importance of like those 5 people you hang around is whether it's, them holding you accountable consciously or even subconsciously, where it's like, holy shit, they're doing that much. Why can't I do that much?
Right. Like, and the thing with numbers is there's always another level, right? You like, it's just, you'll never, even the billionaires are always striving for more. Like, it is that level. There's always a level up. So start with something like the 10K a month. And who knows, once you've done that, you'll feel the confidence and feel equipped to do the 20K a month.
Totally. And I feel like it's such a good point. I feel like it becomes easier once you hit 10K. It's like, well, 20's quite easy after that. Once you build the foundation of 10, you're obviously good at what you do. You can market effectively and you can have, most importantly, the results to back it up. Right? That's the big thing. It's like, it's what they say in like the personal development where it's like, oh, the first million's the easiest. It's like, oh, the first 100,000's the easiest. Once you bank the 100, then you'll be able to do 2, 3, 4. And I feel like you've almost proven it to yourself. If you do that, like, holy shit, I was able to do 20 when all I thought was I was going to do 10. It's like, well, now it's funny. And then again, this is the standards thing. That client who did bank the 28K, now he thinks that like, it's just not good enough. He's like, oh, now it's like, why aren't I doing 40? And I'm like, oh, let's just pump the brakes for a moment. So it's like, but it's like, once you hit one thing, it's like you said, it's like the next level.
Yeah.
And I look at, it's like, comes back to what I said before about like studying successful people. And I feel like this is the importance of it. Kevin Hart shares a story where he says, life's like a game. It's like a video game. And it's like, you get to one level and there's like a new boss that you have to defeat. Yeah. Sometimes the boss is yourself. Sometimes the boss is you need to market better. Sometimes you need to sell better. Sometimes you need to be more innovative. Sometimes you need to pivot. All right. Whatever that boss is, there's like a new set of skills that you need to get to. All right. Now, there's 2 ways you can really figure that out. Is you can figure it out yourself. And sometimes the level's pretty hard to defeat if you just go by yourself. But if you've got someone who's done the level before, well, you can just ask them.
Yeah.
So I feel like just like the super important thing of like getting to one level and then it's like bang, 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 bang. So I feel like that's an important share with that.
Yeah. And I do want to touch on, just as a side note as well with this, also celebrate your small wins, like celebrate the wins. So yes, there are new levels and I just want to be really conscious with like, but don't just keep going and hustling and not pause, reflect and smell the roses. I think that's so important to make sure that like once upon a time, you didn't think that you would be in the position that you're in. So make sure that you're always, again, it comes down to gratitude and be grateful and have perspective and then keep going.
I love that. It's actually one thing that it's like a process that I do at my events and with clients, which I call it like the white rabbit syndrome, where it's like, if you don't appreciate what you've got or celebrate what you've got, that thing that you're chasing will just be forever out of your reach. If it's 10K months and if you hit 10K months and you don't sit there and think that's epic, yeah, I deserve, like I am successful, then all of a sudden it will just shift to 20. And then it's like, oh, like run to 20. I'm like, oh, geez, maybe if I get to 30, then if I get to 40, then if I get to 50. And then it's like this never ending thing of like this spiral where it's like, when will I be successful? And I think that's a big part of it, is allowing yourself to be successful for wherever you're at.
Yes.
It's like I'm all about like, and to be honest, like, I just want to pre-frame this and like, I'm not all about like just money. I talk about money a lot because I'm like, people need it and people want it and it's an important thing. But I'm also all about like just celebrating where you're at and just like creating your own definition of success. Because there was a time in my business where I was continually chasing something external. But I'm like, really nothing external is going to get me the feeling that I'm chasing.
Yes.
All right. So it's like, if you want to feel happy, fulfilled, and just like super excited about what you're doing, you need to find a way to feel happy and successful and excited about what you're doing now. Because doing a certain amount of money is not going to change your fucking thing.
Yes.
Doing 10K a month is not going to change your fucking thing. It's only going to make you think, oh shit, now I've got a bit to lose. Now I'm feeling a bit edgy about it. All right. So I feel like creating your own definition of success, because I feel like right now, like in the time that we're living through, it's like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, you have to be this certain thing to be happy. You have to travel somewhere. You have to have a certain thing. You have to have a certain car. But it's like, who really chooses what success is? It's like I'll share my definition. My definition of success is being very clear on what you want and getting after that thing the best of your ability every day. Now, I go to bed successful every day because I'm just like, well, I had a fucking swing, so I'm happy. But if my definition of success was to do 100K months, then I'm like, I wouldn't be happy until I did that. The funny thing is, when I did that, it would just go to 150. I still wouldn't feel those feelings. So I feel like the more you can show up, and it comes down to like attraction, and it comes down to manifestation. If you show up happy, successful, and fulfilled now, well, you're going to attract more of that. So I feel like that's such an important thing.
Yeah, no, that's so good, and really, really great to acknowledge that, because otherwise, I know a lot of billionaires I don't know billionaires, sorry, I exaggerated, millionaires or like successful people, but they're absolutely depressed. They're not fulfilled and they don't have purpose, because somewhere along the way, they started chasing external things or a monetary figure. And that's why it's really important to kind of, like you said, every day, wake up and be successful and be grateful for where you're at. And that's because it's all the inner work, all that external stuff. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, and you can't take it with you.
Totally.
Yeah.
But it's actually a funny story. Actually, one of my first clients, actually, which is very applicable to this story. He came to me, this random on Instagram, reached out to me. He's like, hey man, like, I feel like you could really help me out. This is like, he's been a client for 18 months now. I'm like, I just love working with him. We just, basically, I think he just pays me to talk shit now. But he came to me and he said, look, dude, I want your help. And I'm like, okay. He was a business owner. And I said, okay, well, tell me about your business. And he's like, well, last year we did $8 million. And I'm like, okay, probably don't need much help with that then. I'm like, what do you want my help for? And he's like, I'm the most unhappy and unfulfilled that I've ever been. So I look at that and I'm like, if someone can run an $8 million business, all right, if I look at that and he's like, I'm the most unhappy and unfulfilled that I've ever been, it's like, it's funny when people say like, oh, money's not everything. And it's like, oh, well, it's easy for you to say when you've got money. But it's like, no, it's fucking true. It's like, it's not going to make any difference to how you feel. Sometimes it just adds more pressure, and it adds more I think, this is my opinion, like money just makes you more of who you are. If you're happy, money's going to make you more happy.
Yes.
If you're feeling very vulnerable, if you get a lot of money, you're probably just going to be feeling more vulnerable.
Yes.
And I feel like that's like a thing that I feel like it's a conversation that needs to happen, doesn't it? Around like social media driving, like buy the cars, get the money, have the boys, girls, X, Y, Z. It's like, none of it fucking matters.
Yeah.
None of it matters at the end of the day.
Yeah. And a lot of it is all ego driven anyway. It's like, when I see a lot of that, I'm like, there's something going on for you. Are you okay? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just some people are just too loud. Like, I'm all up, don't get me wrong, I like nice things and, you know, like going to fine dining, all of this sort of stuff. But there's a line where it's just like, you need to stay and remain humble, because otherwise it's just, all I see is like insecurities actually.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you.
Yeah. Couple more questions left.
Totally.
One being, what do you want to be remembered for?
That's awesome. I want to be remembered by the guy who left no stone unturned and just like did his absolute best to execute on his passion and purpose.
Love it.
And I feel like a big part of that is like the legacy that you leave behind. Like our man Gary says, like, you know, it's all about how many people come to your funeral and how people talk about you, how you left. My legacy, like what I want to build behind, is like a legacy that like my family even look back on, because family is just like huge to me. Like when I was going through like rock bottom, like me and my mum had like a massive fallout, and I'm so proud to say like me and mum, we talk almost every day. I tell her I love her almost every day. And I'm like, I feel like when we grow up, like we crave our parents' love. And then it goes the opposite. When we grow up and they're getting old, they crave ours so much. So like a big part of what I'm doing is like, I want to create something that leaves, you know, generational wealth for my family. I want to give back to my mum and dad who give me everything and really helped me when I was just going through a tremendously bad time, and they could have easily just kicked me out. And they give me my dream life. So I want to give them theirs, in whatever way, shape or form that is. But I feel like the legacy that I want to be like leave behind is like someone who just took a swing on that thing that he loved and literally like left nothing on the table. I think David Goggins says it well when he says, he's like, if your potential is like a wet rag and you get to the end of your life and you still got a full wet rag, it's like you're going to feel pretty shit. And someone's going to be at the end, like hypothetically, and say, hey, dude, this is what you could have been. You could have been this, if you had a go. But I'm like, I want to get to the end with like a completely wrung out rag. It's like this dirty old rag that's just been completely wrung, absolutely dry. And I feel like if you can live like that, of being like, I'm going to go hard at what feels best for me, so that not just I can leave a legacy for me, but for, you know, my grandchildren's children who look up and said, oh, you know, like great grandpa Tim just like took a swing and he executed like this, like, and leave things behind for them to learn and for them to like invest in. So I feel like that's what I want to be remembered for.
That's incredible. That's so amazing. And I think we share very similar legacy visions and goals sort of thing. So 100%, I really, really, really vibe with that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you are no doubt going to do that, if not already, you know. And that's the thing with this stuff. What do you want to be remembered for? It's like when I think about it, I'm like, I'm happy if I got hit by a bus tomorrow because nothing's guaranteed. I've done, like, people, you know, will hopefully be like, far out, she gave it her all, whenever that looks like, whenever my time comes. But you got to live every single day to its fullest.
I love that, Mel. I appreciate those kind words. And I agree. It's like, I think we've both had, you know, similar stuff happen in the past, like losing friends, close friends. And we, you know, you can see how quickly it can be just fucking ripped away from good people. So it's like, you ripped away in a moment, like, you know, touch wood for us and for everyone listening. It's like, touch wood, hope I live till I'm 100 and over. But it's like, fuck, if that doesn't happen, and, you know, if I get taken whenever that is, it's like, fuck, I want to be sure that I've had a fair old decent swing at it.
100%. It's so good. That's so true. So where can people find you, Tim? Where are you most accessible? Is it your website? Is it Instagram? Is it Facebook?
Probably Instagram.
Plug.
Instagram's my main game. So just at Tim Speirs Coaching, or over on Facebook as well, which is just Tim Speirs. The business page is connected to that. But if you were to find me, Instagram's the main spot. If you don't have Instagram, Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, are you an alien? No, I'm joking. But if you don't have Facebook, website, www.timspeirscoaching.com. We'll be able to find me there.
And Speirs is spelled S-P-E-I-R-S, because I think everyone gets...
I actually spelt it wrong halfway through primary school until I actually found it. It was always I-E, so I'm like, well, they're telling me I-E, but my name's E-I. But I was just writing it down. I'm like, I'm spelling my name wrong, but yes. S-P-E-I-R-S, Speirs.
Yeah. And lucky, I'll put these all in the show notes, so definitely just go and I'll hyperlink them all so it's easier for you guys. So one final question that I finish off with all my guests is, what does authenticity mean to you?
What does authenticity mean to me? I feel like authenticity means being so true to yourself, even when it feels uncomfortable. I feel like whatever, you know, field you're in, whatever aspect of life you're in, whether you play sport, whether you run a business, whether you make fucking candles, being authentic means like just like being true to you and expressing yourself at your deepest level and just like having fun in the process in doing so. I believe that's what authenticity is.
What a beautiful answer. My man, thank you so much. I think we're going to need a round 2 for this. But if you guys liked listening to this episode, please just send a screenshot of the episode, post it up on your IG stories, tag me and Tim so that we know you're watching and listening, and we'll reshare that too. But until then, stay safe and be well. Thank you so much for joining us this week on The Authentic Me. If you found value in this episode, please smash that like button and share with someone who may also benefit from our content. Never miss an episode by subscribing to this podcast, available on all audio streaming platforms. And make sure to let me know what you want to hear more of on this journey to your truest, highest, authentic self. See you next time. Bye.